Hey everyone, Jim Williams along with Chris King. Are you ready for some madness? It's Thursday. It's the first day of March Madness. And Chris, I'll tell you, last night we saw Notre Dame and Rutgers play into double overtime and kind of set things up for a point where you're sitting there going, wow, this is great. We're going to get into the madness real quick. So it was an interesting game last night, and we got games going on as we speak. And we're going to hit on all the West games, and we got tons of stuff for you. So, just a quick response to what you think is going on these days. Certainly, last night was a great game, and today we're seeing some very interesting games as well.
Rutgers was disappointing the way they played defense late in regulation, late in the first overtime. Then they couldn't box out at the end of the second overtime. Rutgers beat themselves, let's be honest. They had their chances to put Notre Dame away. And like Mike Bray said in the postgame, once the clock flipped over past midnight, it was St. Patrick's Day. So, of course, Notre Dame was going to find the luck of the Irish to pull that game out. No word yet as whether Mike Bray found any Irish whiskey on the plane to San Diego. But you have to wonder what Notre Dame has left in the tank now. After playing in Dayton, they had to fly 2,000 miles to go to San Diego. We talked about yesterday how they only have a 7-man rotation. How is that going to work after playing double overtime and now having to face an Alabama team that would want nothing more than to run you into the ground? Will they be able to hold up?
Yeah, my guess is that Notre Dame is not going to be able to play the kind of defense it's going to take to play a team as hard and as fast as Alabama. Alabama is not only fast, they're also physical and they're also athletic.
This is true.
So those are all three things you do not want to see if you're only got 7 guys you can play and you just flew. It's the other thing besides the distance, which is in into itself that's a 4-hour flight, is the fact that you basically get into your hotel room. It's early in the morning, and now you've got a 3-hour time difference that you didn't have. So your body clock is on East Coast time. You're on the West Coast. You got 1 day to recoup and get ready. And I mean, man, so they're not going to practice today.
You would hope not.
No.
But I mean, you look at the number of minutes that those guys logged in yesterday's game, and you have to wonder: does Mike Bray wish he had more players? Because obviously, like we said, Alabama's going to run, and there's no way you're going to take it away from them. But Notre Dame had 3 guys play more than 42 minutes yesterday, and 2 of the other 3 of the other 4 guys played at least 34 minutes. So now you're going to face an Alabama team that's rested. And like we said, if there's one thing Nate Oates will do, it is run you into the ground. I watched him do it at Buffalo. I mean, they're 13th in the country in tempo. That's a big difference from what you see from Notre Dame, who comes in a robust 256th in that category this season. It's going to be tough for the Fighting Irish. If they can't find their legs early, they're going to be run right out of the gym.
That's true. Before we get started, let's on what's going on in the West, which is where we are going to be talking today. Let's talk about our buddies at BetMGM. Now, here's the deal. BetMGM will give new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000. Only new players are eligible for this bonus, and you must claim it within 7 days of signing up. Now, once you get that app, right, what BetMGM is going to do is you're going to have the opportunity to, hang on, there it is, give customers a risk-free bet within 7 days of signing up. Now, what happens next is that they will match your bet, as I try to get this stuff out of the way. Sorry. Okay, they're going to match your bet once you make your deposit of $10 all the way up to $1,000. So you put $10 in, you bet $10, they'll match it. And so that's the deal. BetMGM, all the information is in the show box below. You must be 21 years of age to participate. And of course, as we always say, Please bet responsibly. Okay, so that's our first of 2 BetMGM promos. Now, one other thing, you still have time to get your book that we are giving away here at Winners and Whiners, and of course the Max Wagers Network and our buddies at Picks and Parlays. Okay, so in the show box below, you're going to see an opportunity to get the book. All you have to do is click on it. It's free. It'll come right to you. Chris has got one. I've got one. They're really cool books, and it'll help you as you go through. You know, as you go through the tournament, because we're all used to in the filling out a bracket. What we're not necessarily used to is the fact that you can actually bet on each one of these games. So it makes it even more fun. So that's all going on, all in the show box below. BetMGM on there, matching your first wager if you're a new user for the MGM app, and our opportunity to give you a free booklet that will help you guide your way to winning some cash during the tournament. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about the Wild Wild West, Chris. Clearly, the number 1 seed in the entire tournament is Gonzaga, and
Right.
And so they get underway today against Georgia State. Georgia State.
Georgia State.
And I don't think many people give Georgia State much of a chance here. Let's go through the games on today in the West, and let's talk a little bit about what we like and don't like about each one of them.
Well, I mean, the game that tipped off about 20 minutes ago is the 8-9 matchup between Memphis and Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
They're midway through the first half right now. Memphis leading 16-12 in a real offensive barn burner. I mean, let's face it, both Boise State, that's typical for them. They don't like to put up a ton of points. They're not a big offensive team by any stretch of the imagination. So far, they're 4 of 13 from the floor. Tyson Degenhart has 6. He's 2 of 3 from 3. He's going to have a big game, and so is Abu Kaigab, who's missed all 3 of his shots from the field so far for Boise State, and Marcus Shaver's 0 for 2. Meanwhile, DeAndre Williams is a big key for Memphis. So is Jalen Duren. Those 2 guys are going to have to get it done. The way I see it is Boise State, if it's a close game, Boise State's going to kill themselves either way because they're terrible at the free throw line. We talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
They only shoot 64.9% at the stripe. And it's going to be a clash of styles because Memphis likes to run. They average 70.3 possessions a game. That's 34th in the country. Boise State is 307th at 64.6. Memphis was hot down the stretch. They won 6 in a row and 12 of 13 before they lost the AAC title game to Houston. But don't forget they beat Houston twice during the regular season. So they're a battle-tested team. Boise State, like I said, they'll play defense. They don't do well offensively, and they don't shoot well at the line. I took Memphis in this one. They were actually favored even though they were the lower seed. I just think that the inability of Boise State to shoot free throws is going to be what dooms them.
Hey, Lenny, you can come in if you like. We're more than always happy to have you.
Now lose your mind when Detroit Lenny, Detroit Rock Lenny.
He's got U of M on the money line plus 215.
I'm guessing that was a live play because I can't see that Michigan was at any kind of a money line like that early on, or going into tip, I should say. They're up 10 now with 1:07 to go. I mean, after Isaiah Stevens fouled out with 3:28 left, you pretty much could have written off Colorado State. They started hot, but foul disparity got the best of them. I mean, you look at the line right now, Michigan's 14 of 16 of the line, Colorado State 2 of 3. Tough to win when you don't get to the stripe and the other team does.
Right.
Hunter
Lex,
Dickinson.
we agree with you. Hit that button and as it scrolls below, hit the button, subscribe, and ring that bell, okay? Meanwhile, back to the conversation about the problems that, Colorado State, was bombing threes from the outside in the first half. And they made adjustments. It happens. By the way, Lenny, thanks for dropping by. And yes, everybody will be watching Game Time Decision at 5 o'clock because that's what we do here. We roll with our friends and we roll with our teammates. And so, Lenny, We'll see you at 5, buddy. Thanks for
And then he's
dropping
got
by.
to go get some more booze because it's St. Patrick's Day. So
Well, there's that.
he's got to be prepared for the game time
For
decision
the
show.
onslaught, yeah.
Too bad he's leaving because I was going to get his take if he was going to take the Pistons with the points tonight against the Magic.
Well, we
Because
can ask.
that's the whole one NBA game there is tonight. That's
Okay,
called foreshadowing.
that's right. So anyway, let's go back. We talked just about Michigan and Colorado State.
Now we talk about Boise State, Memphis. The West Region game coming up after that, like you said, is Gonzaga and Georgia State. Now, I like Rob Lanier. Let's not take anything away from him. I met him back in 1988 when he was still a student at St. Bonaventure.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him when he coached at Siena. He's done a good job with Georgia State. They won the Sun Belt tournament. Congratulations. Here's your reward. You get to play Gonzaga. Not a good matchup for Georgia State.
Nope.
And we've actually got a slide for this one, but we'll talk about that after. But Georgia State is bad on the offensive end of the floor. They're good at forcing turnovers on the defensive end, but unless they force Gonzaga to turn it over on like every other possession, they're going to get blown out. I mean, let's be honest. Gonzaga leads the league in scoring, or leads the nation in scoring offense at 87.8 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
They shoot 52.7% from the field. They shoot almost 61% from two. They're excellent on the glass. They play defense. They've got two big guys in Timmy and Holmgren that most teams can't match up with one of them, much less both of them. And this is it's probably the worst possible matchup Georgia State could have asked for.
Well, we've seen only one upset of a 1-16 seed, and it's not going to happen today.
Yeah, but I mean, Georgia State's biggest guy is 6'10", and he's 6'10" and 230.
So he's a lean, mean fighting machine.
Right, and you've got to deal with Holmgren, who I know he doesn't have any weight to him, but he's 7 foot tall.
Right.
And he can stretch the floor. Timmy's 6'10" himself. And then you've got, Anton Watson is 6'8", Strother is 6'7", Nemhard is a big point guard at 6'5". Georgia State they don't have the horses, and they don't have the ability to play defensively to slow down Gonzaga. They're a good defensive team. I'm not going to take that away from them, but they're not going to be able to run with Gonzaga. Gonzaga is going to win this one convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, here's we got our boy Lex here saying that he was able to get free money for Zags on the money line. Zags from.
Oh yeah, I saw that there was that promo where I can't remember which book it was. It was MGM or Caesars or somebody where you could get plus 100. They were going to double the money line to get it plus one or minus 100 as opposed to currently minus 8 billion and 6.
Right.
The money line currently shows Gonzaga at minus 12,500.
It's like a Bitcoin number,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
anywhere from minus 10,000 to minus 20,000,
give or take.
Yeah, depending on what book you're at. So,
yeah,
getting it at minus 100 is nice.
There you go. So there's that. All right. So look, I mean, nobody expects Gonzaga to take the pipe today. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Go ahead. You were going to the next game, which
I'm just taking a look here to see who we've got. We've got in the late game or the middle game, the 6:50 game. On TNT, it'll be New Mexico State and UConn. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a 5-12 matchup, but don't underestimate New Mexico State. They're not a pushover team. They won the Western Athletic. Chris Jans has had this team in the tournament year after year. They finished 26-6. They beat Davidson, who's in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Washington State, who was a good team that made the NIT.
Mm-hmm.
They can defend well. They're 20th in effective field goal percentage defense at 45.5%. The one thing that they're going to have to do, they're going to have to keep Sonogo and Tyrese Martin and those guys off the glass. Connecticut led the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. I think UConn's going to win the game. I don't know if they're going to cover the line. The line's 6.5. I took New Mexico State with the points just because I like what New Mexico State's done. Their team, they've got a bunch of cast-offs from other schools. They got Teddy Allen. He came over there from Nebraska and God knows where else, some junior college. They've got Jabari Rice. They've got some players that, they're not household names, but they're guys that contribute. They got Donnie Tillman, who started his career at Utah. They're not going to be a pushover. And UConn can't underestimate because we see a lot of upsets every year where a 12 beats a 5. It might not happen here, but I'm not banking on UConn to run away with it either.
In the tournament thus far, from the time it established itself to be on 32 teams, the 12-5 has been the single biggest upset line in the tournament. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 or 37% of the time that at least one of those matchups ends up with the 12 winning. So, as you say, New Mexico State has been a lot of fun to watch, and they fly under the radar out there in the WAC. But they're not going to be flying under the radar today, so we'll see how that plays.
Right. And then the late game in the West. I love how it's the West region, but it's coming to you live from the KeyBank Center in Buffalo.
Right.
It's
Western
Arkansas.
New York. Yes.
Yeah, it's Arkansas, the 4 seed, taking on our good buddies from the America East, who's done, if you've watched the show at all over the last few months, has done us a lot of favors outside of Hartford. The 13th seeded Vermont Catamounts. Vermont's probably underseeded here. I mean, let's face it, Vermont has obliterated a lot of teams. They obliterated UMBC in the America East title game, winning by 39 points after they beat Binghamton by 32 and the New Jersey Institute of Technology by 39 in the tournament. They come in with 8 straight wins. They've won 22 of their last 23 games. Arkansas, what can we say about Arkansas? Eric Musselman, he's a good coach. But we've watched them put up dud performances sometimes when it matters. They lost to Alabama by 1 on the road in mid-February. Then they won 5 in a row. Then they lost to Tennessee in a game where they were blown out in the first half and couldn't quite make the comeback in their regular season finale. In the SEC tournament, they beat LSU in the first round and then got absolutely smoked by a Texas A&M team playing their 3rd game in as many days. Now, Arkansas, they're a good basketball team. They've got some good players. You got Stanley Amude and JT Note, who I bet you Jacksonville wished they still had him because they probably would have been playing in the tournament instead of Jacksonville State. Note did nothing in the Texas A&M loss. He was 2 of 8 from the floor and had 5 points. Vermont had played teams like Providence and Maryland, and they played Oakland earlier this season. So, I mean, it's not like they just beat up a bunch of bad teams. And most importantly, Vermont's got 5 seniors in their lineup, led by Ben Shungu, Ryan Davis, Justin Mazzulla is in there. They're 3rd in the nation in 2-point shooting at 59.1%. They're 6th in field goal percentage overall, 49.3%. And they play good defense. They're 10th in the country at 60.3 points a game. Much like New Mexico State, UConn, Arkansas should win the game, but I don't trust them to blow anybody out. I'm going to take the points in Vermont in that one. And who knows, you could see Vermont just outright steal it. Anything's possible in March, as we all well know. Don't underestimate the Catamounts.
Here, Chris, one of the things that we've talked about with Vermont and teams like it, right? First of all, Vermont's going to have some fans because you're playing in Buffalo. So it ain't that far. So they'll get there, which will be good for them. And the discipline that if you watch Vermont play, they play with a great deal of discipline. They've got good guard play. They're solid all the way down. They've got some depth. Arkansas is a little frenetic, as you said. They try to be Alabama, but then they're not. And they play in the SEC, and we'll see. I just think you're right. I think Vermont with points is good, and Vermont may just very well take it straight up. So,
I mean, of course, like I said, anything can happen. Arkansas might come out and realize that, hey, we actually have to play basketball.
mhm.
And they might, turn up the pressure and make things and try to make Vermont turn the ball over. But the thing is, Vermont's been here before. They're
Right.
used to seeing how things work in March. So,
Mhm.
and if Arkansas continues to fire up 3-point bricks like we've seen them do all season, and basically throw away possessions, anything can happen.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I think this is important to remember, is that, without this is not Nolan Richardson's, 40 minutes of hell Arkansas team. It's a good basketball team, but it's not, on that upper echelon level of basketball. And I don't know. I just like the consistency and the veteran play of Vermont. To me, gives them. I don't see where they're going to be intimidated by Arkansas.
Yeah,
Now,
it's gonna go.
Arkansas's
They're gonna have
athletic.
they're gonna have a fighting chance in this one.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
a matter of whether they can complete it or not.
Right. That's all you can ask for, right? Is to face a team that if you're on that day, you have a very good chance of beating. So that's all you can ask for.
Speaking of 4 minutes to go in the first round in the Midwest, Providence 56, South Dakota State 47. The Jackrabbits going to have to start knocking down some threes if they want to close this gap. They're only 6 of 18 from the floor in the contest, or from 3-point range in the contest, I should say.
Right.
A far cry from the 44+% they shot during the regular season. And 3:57 to go in the first half in the West region. Memphis 27, Boise State 19.
Well, there you go. It's
And look at that, Boise State quickly 1 of 4 at the free throw line so far in this game.
Whoops.
So it's coming out again. Boise State continuing to struggle.
To missing the free throws. Okay. By the way, I'm checking the scores just to check. And if you're a baseball fan, the Red Sox are beating the Twins 4-1 in games that do not matter. Yeah. So Baylor's beating Norfolk State 22-10.
Right.
And
that game on TBS.
And we already established that Michigan has won. So Michigan advances.
Just disappointing that Colorado State kind of came unglued in the second half. I think they got overconfident when they were up 15.
Mm-hmm.
They let Michigan get inside, and of course, like I said, free throw disparity was a big difference. Michigan finished 19 of 22. Colorado State finished 5 of 7. They also had David Roddy foul out down the stretch, as did Isaiah Stevens. And when you lose your 2 best players due to foul trouble, it kind of makes it that much more difficult to win a basketball game.
100%. I mean, you can't just do it with, with hope, and you got to do it where it goes and get it done. So they didn't do it. So we'll see from there. One quick note before we hit the slides, and that is to go over BetMGM again. BetMGM will give new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000. Only new players are eligible for this bonus. It must be claimed within 7 days. Now, once you create that account and make your first deposit of any real money of a bet between $10 and $1,000, then BetMGM is going to, they're going to match it for you. Okay, so it's a wonderful promotion. It's in our show box below. Remember, you have to be 21 years of age to play, and always wager responsibly. Okay, cool. So now, without any further ado, we're going to go to the big board and take a look at some games, other games in the tournament tonight. Murray State and one of our favorites, San Francisco.
Yeah, and this one, though, I've got to go towards Murray State. This line was a pick 'em. It's now moved to Murray State -2.5. The Dons 24-9, 10-6. They're 3-3 on a neutral floor. Murray State 30-2, 18-0 in the Ohio Valley. They were 4-2 on neutral floors. The big news, though, came out yesterday when Todd Golden said Yahun Masalski, their big post presence, averaged 13.5 points, 9.4 rebounds a game in the regular season, will not play tonight for San Francisco. Remember, he missed the West Coast semifinal against Gonzaga with a knee injury. Apparently, he re-injured his knee in practice this week, so he will not be in action. You have to wonder how that'll affect San Francisco here. Murray State 16th in the country in scoring offense at 79.3 points a game, 21st in field goal percentage at 47.9. They shoot 55.5% from inside the arc, 35.3% from three-point range. Mediocre at the free throw line, 69.4%. The Dons are 40th in scoring offense, 77.1. They're 86th field goal percentage, 45.7. They shoot 54% from inside the arc. They shoot a lot of threes, 9.6 threes a night, 16th in the country. They're also terrible at the free throw line. But the difference here comes on the defensive end. If you look, Murray State is 21st in scoring defense. They only give up 62.3 points a game. Opposing teams shoot just 41% from the floor, under 50% from two, 30.3% from beyond the arc. So that's going to be the challenge for San Francisco. Can Khalil Shabazz and Jean-Marie Bouye get enough open looks from the perimeter against a very good Murray State perimeter defense? The Dons 113th in scoring off RD at 67 points a game. Opposing teams shoot 42.4%, 48.1% from inside the arc, just 29.4% from three-point range, which is very impressive. But when you get down to it, Murray State's good on both ends of the floor, and that's something that's definitely going to work in their favor. They're 8-2-1 in their last 11 after an ATS loss. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. The Dons just 3-14 against the spread after an ATS win. I'm going to take Murray State minus the couple of points because the Dons without Masalski are going to have trouble.
Yeah. What's interesting to me about this game is that you don't normally see in the first round of the tournament 2 mid-majors paired against each other.
That's true.
Usually you get, San Francisco would end up with an ACC or an SEC or, even a Pac-12 team, something like that. And Murray State, you would think, definitely an ACC or an SEC type situation. But we get 2 very talented, very well put together mid-major teams that we've liked all season long facing off in the tournament. And in one way, it's a good thing to see. In another way, that means one good mid-major is going to leave. And,
right.
That's the sad part of it. All right, so for Murray State and San Francisco, I know you got loaded up. The next one on the list, and that is somebody we talked about earlier.
Yep, and this just breaks down why things don't look all that great for Georgia State. Like I said, they're 193rd in scoring offense at 70.6 points a game. But look at those field goal percentage numbers. 337th in field goal percentage at 40.3%. 343rd in two-point shooting at 44.7%. They're 235th in three-point shooting at 32.9%. And, you've got to play Gonzaga, who, for all the talk we give them about offense, they're pretty good defensively. 64th in scoring defense at 65.3 points a game. They're 3rd in field goal percentage defense at 37.9%. They lead the nation in two-point defense at 41.6%. So it's bad enough that Georgia State can't shoot normally. Now you got to face the team that leads the country in two-point defense. And they're 42nd in three-point defense at 30.7%. Meanwhile, offensively, Gonzaga leads the country, like we said, 87.8. They lead in field goal percentage. They lead in two-point shooting. They're pretty good from three-point range, ranking 17th in the country in three-point percentage. They're 130th at the free throw line, and they're 3rd in the country in rebounding. Let's just be honest. These numbers don't look good for Georgia State. I get the Panthers are good defensively. Like I said, they're 44th in scoring defense, 65th in field goal percentage defense. 13th against the 2, 43.8%. But they do get lit up from the outside. 338th in 3-point field goal percentage defense at 37%. With the way Gonzaga can beat you inside with Timmy and outside with Holmgren, who can also beat you inside, and then you've got those shooters, Bolton and all those guys, it is just absolutely terrible for Georgia State. It's like I said, it's like Rob Lanier open up a gift on his birthday and found out that it was a gag gift. Like, here, you get to go to the tournament. You get to play Gonzaga in round 1.
That's a good news, bad news. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a brand new used toaster on the way out.
Yeah, and no maple syrup.
Yeah. Georgia State 1-5 in their last 6 as an underdog. 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 NCAA tournament games as an underdog. As much as I like Georgia State, they're not winning here.
I know it's a cliche to say it, but I'll say it anyway. Gonzaga, at this point in their program, they're just automatically baked into the tournament. I mean, it's a stunner if they're not in the tournament. And, they're a championship team, a Final Four team. That's the quality this team is. And, you love Georgia State coming and trying their best to duke it out. But, there's just, you're going to have to be better than Georgia State to beat Gonzaga because they're not going to beat themselves.
Right. And I mean, even if, like I said, Georgia State would have to get Gonzaga to turn it over pretty much on every other possession.
Right.
And I don't see that happening. By the way, Memphis has now broken that game open. It's now 38-19 with 38 seconds to go in the first half. So Memphis going on a run here towards the end of the first half. Looks like Alex Lomax was fouled on a 3-pointer, so he looks like he's going to have a shot at a 4-point play. Boise State quickly unraveling as they've been unable to come up with any kind of cohesion on the offensive end. Just a quick look at that. They are 7 of 22 from the floor, and they're now 1 of 5 at the charity stripe. Meanwhile, Memphis shooting 57.1% from the field, 4 of 6 from 3-point range. Boise State's going to have to figure it out quickly, or this one's going to be history in that first game in the West region.
Well, I think it's going to be in the books sooner than later for sure. We got some games here this afternoon that are definitely interesting. In the early afternoon games, the ones obviously the ones that are open over or being played, let's let those go by. But in the next couple hours between now and say 7 o'clock, of those games, which one of them do you think is the most compelling?
I really like Richmond, Iowa, because it's going to be a clash. Will Fran McCaffrey get out of weekend 1 with the Hawkeyes? I know everybody's high on them because they won the Big East tournament.
Big Ten.
Sorry, yeah, the Big Ten. I'm sorry. I was looking down at another thing. I saw Marquette right below them, so that's why I clicked on Big East. But the thing with Iowa is, what does Iowa like to do? Iowa's a track meet team. They're playing Richmond. Guess what Richmond doesn't do?
They don't run.
Richmond does not run. This game is going to be a slow game because Richmond makes opposing teams hold the ball for 18.1 seconds on each possession. If you look in the 4 slowest paced teams in the Big Ten were Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers, and Minnesota. Iowa played those 4 teams a combined 6 times this season. The average total in those games, 139. They've got this one set at 150.5. I don't think they're going to get there because Richmond's going to try and take the air out of the ball. They're going to, they've held all 4 teams they faced in the A10 tourney to 64 or less. They shut down Davidson in the A10 final and only gave up 62 to them. I think Richmond might be a little undervalued getting 10.5 points. Like I said before, they're not going to win this game outright, I don't think. But they're going to make Iowa work for everything. And Iowa is not a team that likes to do that. They
So,
like to run and gun and take open jumpers and everything else.
so basically, you're saying that they're going to have to run and gun.
Well, I mean that's what they do. I mean, if you look at their
Mm-hmm.
games when they played those teams like Penn State and everybody, when they played Penn State, they lost the first game, and that was a run and gun game. They lost 90-86. They played Rutgers in New Jersey and lost 48-46.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Ohio State, but they only scored. It was 75-62. The Minnesota game, they only scored 71. It was 71-59. The other one was 81-71. But the other Penn State game, the one that wasn't the run and gun game, was 68-51. So when they play these teams that slow the pace down, it makes Iowa, not one dimensional, but it makes them more regressing to the mean as far as piling up points. Because I mean, they're the second in the nation in offensive efficiency. But when you play these teams that don't want to play your style of basketball, it makes you, I don't know, it's kind of like a batter when they're in a slump. They kind of grind the bat a little bit more. And that's what Iowa does. They kind of double clutch on shots and everything else because they're not used to playing that style.
Well, it makes them mortal,
right?
And beatable. And again, it's a bit cliche, but if you're an Iowa or a heavy favored team, a Gonzaga even for that matter, you want to not have to go 100% to beat a team. You just want to be able to say, okay, we're talking about game one of a tournament. You just want to go out there and say, okay, let me get a feel for the court. Let me get a feel for what this is like. We never played on this court before, or we haven't played on it for a very long time. So let's get used to it. Let's get used to the environment. We've been here. We've done that. We bought the T-shirt, saw the movie. When they get out of that comfort zone and things start to not go well and balls start to, round off the rim and that whole routine, then, as you say, they start to press. Not a Bob Huggins press, but a press to make it work. And, like you say, it's once you're out of your comfort zone, the other team's in your head. And that's not a good thing. So we'll see. There's plenty of that going on. Let's go back to the board, and we got some more games to talk about.
Yeah, this one's actually from the Basketball Classic.
Wait, yeah.
The exciting matchup between Eastern Washington and Fresno State. Eastern Washington 18-15, 11-9 in the Big Sky. Fresno State 19-13, 8-9 in the Mountain West. Talk about a clash of styles here. Eastern Washington, very good offensively, 42nd in scoring, 76.9 points a game. They shoot 53% from two, 34.8% from three, 75.2 at the line. Meanwhile, Fresno State is 323rd in scoring offense at 64.7 points a game. They don't shoot a lot of threes. They don't shoot them well. Fresno State's calling card is on the defensive end of the floor. Third in scoring defense at 58.7 points a game. 51st in field goal percentage, defense at 41%, 47% from two. Meanwhile, Eastern Washington doesn't play defense. So you've got a team that's good offensively playing a good defensive team, and a team that can't score playing a team that can't stop anybody. Even with all that said, Fresno State shouldn't be favored by 13 points over anybody. I mean, last week they were favored by 12 or 13 points over San Jose State, and they won in overtime by 2. That's why I'm taking Eastern Washington with all the points, because if you can't beat San Jose State by more than 2 points and it takes you overtime, how are you going to be a team that has a winning record by 13 points?
Not easily.
Yeah, Eastern Washington 22-4 against the spread in their last 26 on the road against teams with a winning home record, 23-5 in their last 28 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage greater than 600. Fresno State 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 at home. Give me 13 points all day long when you've got a team that can't beat San Jose State by more than 2 and who can't win and cover at home. For all those numbers, Eastern Washington, like I said, they were 8-10 on the road, but they covered 13 out of 18 games, as the visiting team. Fresno State, they were 11-4 at home, but in the 14 games that had lines, they were just 8-6 against the spread.
Chris, we got a ton of questions here, buddy. So
Are they about tacos? Because we'll talk about tacos.
So let's jump in and see what we can do here. We got James, our buddy. He's talking about. Let's go to this one. The
UConn game. Yeah, we talked about that. New Mexico State. I think UConn will win. I don't know if they're going to cover. I like New Mexico State. Like I said, they beat Davidson. They beat Washington State. They're a team that's, they're familiar with what the tournament's all about because they come out of the WAC seemingly every year because the rest of that conference is garbage outside of Grand Canyon. The key for them is going to have to keep UConn off the offensive glass because Sonogo and Tyrese Martin and RJ Cole can kill you on second chances if you give them to them. UConn led the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. I think the Huskies will win, but I'm taking the points in New Mexico State because I think this is a game that's going to be close right down to the wire.
There's Brody. He wants to know what you think about the Kentucky and St. Pete.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's another game that we would kind of like Iowa and Richmond, where Kentucky likes to run because what else does John Calipari do? And they're good offensively. They're good on the glass. But St. Peter's is a team that will take your ball, take a knife, stab the ball, take all the air out of it, and give it back to you because they're going to slow this game down to a crawl. They're 240th in tempo at 66 possessions a game. They're fifth in effective field goal percentage at 44.1. If Kentucky's going to push this game over the number, they're going to have to force a lot of turnovers. St. Peter's does oblige in that category. They're 319th by turning it over on 20.8% of their possessions. If it goes over, it's not going to go over by much. I know Ken Palm's got it pegged about 133. Looking at what St. Peter's has done defensively of late, you look in their during this 7-game win streak, they hadn't given up more than 65 points in any of the games, including they gave up 36 to Niagara, 41 to Fairfield, 52 to Quinnipiac. Monmouth got 54. I'm not saying St. Peter's is going to hold Kentucky under 65, but I think they're going to probably hold them to probably 75 or so. So I'd give a slight lean towards the over just because 132 is a little low. Like I said, but I don't think you're going to see much more than 135, maybe 137 out of these two teams, the way it looks from the way St. Peter's plays offense, which is also seen under the category not well. But the key is, will Kentucky get overconfident and screw around? Because inevitably that does happen, and St. Peter's is a top 20 scoring defense. But yeah, I'll lean slightly towards the over.
Well, there you go. I think the key here is to watch what we got. And, it's one of those games where, it's not going to get a lot of pub for sure because it's not, it's one of those games where everybody's expecting Kentucky to waltz on through. And we'll see how that happens. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we got some NHL action going on today.
Well, hold on. We got Charles asking if Gonzaga can cover the big number. I think so. Like I said, Georgia State's going to have to force turnovers at a ridiculous rate to keep Gonzaga from scoring. There's just too much talent on that Gonzaga team for Georgia State to defend. You could probably have 7 guys on the floor for Georgia State, and they probably still couldn't slow down Gonzaga enough to stay in this game.
It's funny, to your point, Chris, that there's a lot of people who, even though they're the number 1 seed overall, are always there to doubt Gonzaga. And
True.
think that when you're Gonzaga and you're the number 1 seed, and you have I think by far they led the country in point differential over,
they were blowing teams out.
That they're just gonna, they're gonna come in and they're just gonna say, you know what, let's make a statement from day one that we belong here. We earned the number one seed overall, and let's lay waste to you know to Georgia State. So to me, it's going to be an interesting evening, but I don't think it's going to be tough for I don't. Gonzaga's not going to break a sweat in that game.
Yeah. Michael asked about the Virginia Tech Texas total for tomorrow. It's 123. I think that's a little low. I mean, both teams
Yeah,
play at
that's a good point.
ridiculously slow tempos. Virginia Tech 344th in tempo, Texas 341st. But the difference is Virginia Tech's an efficient offensive team. They're 19th in effective field goal percentage. They're third in 3-point shooting. And if you look down the stretch, they put 71 on Miami, 75 on Louisville, 76 on Clemson in the ACC tournament, 87 on Notre Dame, 72 on North Carolina, 82 on Duke. And Texas, Texas is inconsistent. I mean, they dropped their last three coming into the tournament. I'm surprised they still got a 6 seed out of being 21-11 when you consider that Texas A&M had a better record than they did, I believe, and didn't get in the tournament at all. Texas A&M was 24-12. So how is but Texas, I guess they're going to base it off schedule, but I mean, you look at some of the teams they beat, and they weren't that great. San Jose State, Cal Baptist, Sam Houston State, UTRGV, XYZ, PDQ.
Right, State.
Yeah, State, Tech, Community College, Dairy
It's.
Farm. But
I
think
don't
it's.
think anybody. Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think anybody wants to see Virginia Tech in the first round. I mean, this is the hottest team in the tournament.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that one's going to go over. As far as Liam with Iowa, I don't think that one's going over. The team total, I haven't seen what the number is. I didn't look to see what they were pegging at, but I don't think that game's going over the 150.5. I think Richmond will slow that game down enough that unless Iowa is bombing away from 3-point range and Keegan Murray just explodes again, that one's going to fall short of the total. Team total, I'd have to see what it was because I honestly don't know.
Okay, let's go to the NHL and get some hockey in for some folks who are puckheads. We got the Rangers and the Islanders, a battle of New York.
Yeah, coming in from Madison Square Garden. The Islanders 24-24-9. They're 10-12-5 on the road. The Rangers, a whole lot of wins and not a lot of losses. They are 38-17-5. They're 25-3 at home. It's going to be Ilya Sorokin, 20-12-7 with a 233 goals against, a 925 save percentage, and 6 shutouts for the Isles. Supposed to face Igor Shesterkin, 29-7-3 with a 207 goals against, a 938 save percentage, and 3 shutouts for the Rangers. The big difference here is the way these teams are offensively. Islanders 24th in goals for at 2.7. They're 6th in goals against at 2.72. The Rangers, middle of the road offensively, 16th with 3 goals a game, 3rd in goals against at 2.58. The Rangers 40-12 in their last 52 as a favorite, 20-6 in their last 26 at home. And those last 3 numbers are very damning if you're an Islanders fan like our buddy John. They're 5-22 in their last 27 as an underdog. They're 4-22 in their last 26 against teams with a winning record, and they're 2-12 in their last 14 as a road underdog. I know everybody was excited last weekend when the Islanders won 3 in a row, but those games all came at home. Then they lost to the Capitals the other night in a shootout where Vitek Vanacek suddenly channeled his inner Dominic Hasek and shut them down in the shootout. So they lost that one. Now you've got to go across town and face probably the one team you hate the most, and you're probably going to get beat. So tough break for the Isles, but, they sunk themselves at the start of the season when they had that 13-game road trip to start the year and then came home and had issues adjusting to the UBS arena, and that buried them as far as being in contention for a postseason berth. Doesn't get any better for them here.
No, and as you say, it's one of those things where we've said it before. Barry Trotz's teams can't score, and yeah, you can play defense, but unless you're just not gonna win 1-0, 2, 1-0, 2-1 against a Rangers team that's much more balanced and much more capable of scoring points. It's just you can't. And this is the thing too. Sorokin is not a bad keeper.
Right. At least it's not Semyon Varlamov.
Right. I mean, this guy can play, but hell, you can't expect him to stop everything. And that's where they are. And look, it's a bus ride. Okay, it's from where the Islanders play. It's about 15 miles to Madison Square Garden. So that's one of those 15 miles and 3 hours to get there. But it definitely is some traffic. But yeah, the Rangers and the Isles will play at the Garden tonight, and it'll be a garden party for the Rangers.
Yep. That's the way I see it. I mean, the Islanders just have fallen apart, and they've got no one to blame but themselves for that slow start to the year.
Yeah, and in some regards, you think, okay, well, the Islanders want to spoil things for the Rangers, but the Rangers got that memo, so I don't think they're going to surprise them in any way, shape, or form.
The Rangers always get up for when they play the Islanders because there's so much animosity between those teams.
Well, and all you have to do is start pointing at cups, right? The Islanders have a lot more cups than the Rangers do, and they're more than happy to mention it. However, neither of them have won a cup recently, so there is that to concern themselves with. All right, up next on the ice tonight,
we have Nashville, and everybody's favorite team that we like to pick on. If it's not the Coyotes or the Canadiens, it's the Flyers.
Because we can.
Yeah, basically. Nashville 35-21-4. They're 17-10-4 on the road. We just watched them beat Pittsburgh the other night at home. The Flyers 18-30-11. They're 11-15-6 at home. It'll be UC Saros 29-18-3 with a 241 goals against, a 924 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Expected to start for Nashville. Carter Hart 11-19-7 with a 297 goals against, a 911 save percentage, and 1 shutout between the pipes for Philadelphia. Nashville 13th in the league in goals for at 3.20. They're 7th in goals against at 2.75. The Flyers are terrible. They're 31st in goals for at 2.51. That's right. I believe they were passed by the Arizona Coyotes in that category. They're 25th in goals against at 3.42. Nashville 5-1 in their last 6 overall. They're 21-6 in the third game of a 3-game and 4-night situation. In the last 27 opportunities with that situation, they're 15-5 in the last 20 after allowing 2 goals or less. Meanwhile, Philadelphia 12-40 in their last 52 against teams with a winning record, 3-13 in their last 16 on Thursday, and Nashville has taken 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams. Let's face it, the Flyers are going nowhere. They're getting there fast. They might as well just book a room and stay there for a while because they're not getting anywhere close to the postseason again this year.
Chris, it's funny that you're in trouble when the most popular part of your organization is the mascot.
That's true.
And that's where the Flyers are right now. The Flyers are in a situation where more people go to watch the mascot than go to watch the game. And that does not bode well for you.
Yeah, Eddie, I like Nashville on the puck line too. Philadelphia just doesn't score. And they're going to have a tough time getting past Nashville's defense.
Absolutely.
Not to mention Saros, who's been, robbing teams left and right of what seemed like sure goals of late, making life miserable for opposing teams. And, Saros could be a dark horse candidate for the Vezina if there weren't so many other good candidates.
That's true. It's been a good year for goalkeeping.
Yeah, unless you're playing Philadelphia.
Yeah, there's that. We got one game, I think, right, in the NBA tonight?
Yeah, and it's a doozy. I hope everybody's going to tune in for this one. Who needs to watch March Madness when you've got this kind of high-quality NBA action?
That's right. But first, there's more, okay? Use your BetMGM app. This is our second MGM promo. Use your BetMGM app and place a bet of at least $10 on any NBA game and get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer. Click on the MGM link in our show box below to participate. And remember, you must be 21 years of age to play. Always bet responsibly. And folks, as I said, we got two different great options going on there from BetMGM that you want to take advantage of. Don't forget the great promo book that you got. I'm sorry, the great book that you can use for March Madness and betting on the games. That's in the show box below, as well as what we talked about before, which is the ability to get Chris's outstanding parlays. All that in the show box below. Just go down there, click it. On your way down, by the way, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you'll get all this information on a daily basis. Okay? Cool enough? Cool enough. All right. So now, without any further ado, that Chris has pumped it up big time. Here it is. Tonight's NBA action.
That's right. It's the Pistons and the Magic coming to you from the Amway Center.
Okay, that's all you need to know. No, I'm just kidding here.
I know everybody's excited about this one. The Pistons 18-51. They're 7-28 on the road. The Magic 18-52. They're 8-20. Oh, what is it? Let me put my tab here. 8-25 at home. The Pistons 29th in scoring offense at 103.5, 29th in field goal percentage, and 29th in three-point shooting. We say it every time, but it holds true every time. The Pistons are glad the Oklahoma City Thunder are in the league because they're number 30 in all those categories. Meanwhile, Orlando 22nd in scoring defense at 112.2, 16th in field goal percentage defense, 26th in three-point defense. Orlando not any better offensively. They're 28th in scoring offense, 28th in field goal percentage, and 27th in three-point shooting. So, of course, this game will end up going over the total because why not? You've got two of the three worst offenses in the league. Detroit 23rd in scoring defense, 26th field goal percentage defense, 29th in three-point defense. I'm taking the points in the Pistons here. If you look, Pistons 6-0 against the spread in their last six as a road underdog, 6-0 against the spread in their last six on the road. They're 11-1 against the spread in their last 12. That includes a cover the other night against Miami, where we said to take Detroit in the points. I like this line a lot better when it was 4.5, but they're still getting points, so that's a plus. Orlando 7-18-1 against the spread in their last 26 home games against teams with a road winning percentage below 400. And the Pistons have gone 7-3 against the spread in the last 10.
Well, Orlando, being the great hosts that they are, they just want you to come to Orlando and have fun. And so
why not?
Yeah. So tonight the Pistons will come. They'll have fun. They'll
get some free cleaning supplies
by Disney World, or Universal, and enjoy themselves.
What about the free cleaning supplies?
Yeah, exactly, at the Amway Center. There's that to look forward to. We've talked a lot about the college games. We talked a lot about the NBA game and the NHL. Let's go for two for the money.
All righty. Ryan, we talked about Murray State earlier in the show. I like the Racers, especially with Masalski missing for San Francisco. North Carolina Marquette, game's going to be one of those games where they go up and down the floor and up and down the floor because if you look, North Carolina 39th in tempo, Marquette is 26th. It'll be a chance for Shaka Smart to try and show that, he can still coach after he left Texas to go to Marquette. The problem with Marquette is, they stumbled down the stretch. They lost 6 of their last 10. They lost to Creighton in the first round of the Big East tournament. I know North Carolina had their issues. They lost to Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech was a good team. As we saw, they ran through the ACC tournament. I'm going to lean towards the Tar Heels there. I just hope the line doesn't bunch up a whole bunch more. The one issue that North Carolina has is they don't force a lot of turnovers on the defensive end. So they're going to have to make Marquette miss shots. But it'll be an interesting matchup because you've got 2 first-year coaches there with Hubert Davis and, Smart. It's his first year at Marquette. It's not his first year as a coach. But the question is, this is not the Marquette team that you're used to seeing. They're led by Daryl Morcell, who transferred from Maryland, and Justin Lewis. I think I'm looking for a big game from Armando Bacot from North Carolina to help them get the win in that contest.
A couple quick scores for you. They're
74
blowouts
to
at the
2.
moment. Yeah. The couple quick scores. Memphis is up on Boise State 40-23. Baylor is running away. They're up 43-27. We know Michigan beat Colorado State a little earlier, 75-63. Also, Providence got their win, 66-57, and Tennessee's up by a bucket, 9-7 early in that game.
Yeah, just a tough night for South Dakota State. I mean, they only took 23 threes. They hit 7. Um, that's not really their style. They like to shoot a lot more threes than that. So I'm surprised that they didn't go to their strong suit. And give Providence credit. They handcuffed Douglas Wilson. He was only 6 of 14 from the floor, finished with 13 points. Him going against Nate Watson was going to be a big battle in the post. He outdueled Watson, but the problem was, Providence, got a few more buckets and, got to the line a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much the difference of the game, that and cold 3-point shooting.
Your next 3 games, real quick, on True TV is going to be Iowa and Richmond. Over on TNT at 4:15, you've got Gonzaga, as we said, coming up on that one. And then what you just spoke about at 4:30 over on TBS, it's the University of North Carolina against Marquette. So those are the games that are coming up, and we try to keep you up to date as we can. And so let's go from here to 4 for the show.
All right. We're going to talk about none other than I'm going to go with St. Mary's today over Indiana. I know Indiana beat Wyoming the other day. I know that St. Mary's doesn't necessarily have a post presence that's going to try and slow down Trace Jackson Davis. My question is, what does Indiana have left after that physical contest? And then they had to go and fly across the country for this game. I think that Indiana, Matthias Tass is going to have a big game for St. Mary's. He's their post guy. He's 6'10". He's a senior. He's been here before. Tommy Cuse is going to have a big game at the point for St. Mary's. But Indiana, they're going to have to learn that if they're going to win games right now, the ball needs to go through Jackson Davis instead of just jacking up threes for no freaking reason other than, oh, look, it's a 3. Because that's what they tried to do against Wyoming on multiple possessions. And I know our buddy Pete Medhurst was apoplectic, wondering why they were shooting the ball out there without Jackson Davis touching the ball. Because if you look, in that game against Wyoming, Jackson Davis had 29 points. The rest of the team scored 37. And they were 2 of 13 from 3. So why were you trying to shoot those? It obviously wasn't working for you. But St. Mary's is an excellent defensive team. Randy Bennett has done a great job shutting down teams. They beat Gonzaga. They held Gonzaga to 57 points in late February. So they held BYU to 64. They held San Francisco to 64. These are all good teams. We're not talking about, like we said, Pennsylvania A&I Tech State Community College U. Right. So I think that, the combination of Indiana having played that game, then having to travel and dealing with St. Mary's defense, if Jackson Davis struggles or is in foul trouble, Indiana is going to be in trouble. I'm going to go with St. Mary's. Same token, I'm going to take San Diego State over Creighton. The Aztecs are an absolutely brutal team that you don't want to deal with on the defensive end of the floor. That started with Steve Fisher. It's carried over under Brian Dutcher. The Aztecs will make you work for everything you get, and you probably still won't like the way the end result is. I mean, the Aztecs are just suffocating on the defensive end of the floor. It kind of makes Tony Bennett's pack line defense look, like Paul Westhead's defense. The Aztecs are second in the country. They only give up 57.7 points a game. Opposing teams shoot just 38.2% against them. I have to think that the Aztecs get the win. And then on the ice, Edmonton over Buffalo. Craig Anderson already got his 300th career win. The Sabres have nothing to play for. There's no animosity with the Oilers. They have to go to Edmonton. The Oilers have played better under Jay Woodcroft. Look for that. And I got to fade the Red Wings because, like I said the other day, any team that gives up 9 goals to the Coyotes isn't going to get my vote for a while. And Vancouver's played well of late.
Yeah.
They're at home. They're trying to chase down a playoff spot. Look for Bruce Boudreau's boys to get the win at home in that contest.
Spanking the gang. All right, let's close it out with the menu.
Right, and this is like I said, I like Richmond and Iowa to stay under the total. I just don't think Iowa's going to impose their will of the track meet like they like to. Same token, I'm going to take Indiana and St. Mary's to go over 125.5. It's not going to be by much, but I think that, St. Mary's, they're efficient offensively. Indiana's going to get their buckets inside. I think it's going to end up probably around 130, maybe 132. But hey, it could be 126 and be over the number. That's all you need to know. New Mexico State, like I said earlier, I'm going to take with the points over UConn. I think UConn wins the game, but I think New Mexico State should hang around and keep it close. Same token, UCLA, they're going to win this game. I don't think Akron's going to pull it out. But 13.5 points is a lot of points to give up, knowing how Akron will play defense. We saw what they did to Kent State in the MAC title game. We know what John Gross can do. Akron's going to make this game a crawl. They're 351st in tempo at 62.2 possessions a game, and they get to the free throw line a lot. If UCLA gets in any kind of foul trouble, they're going to have some issues. You look at Akron's won 8 straight coming into this game. Only one team scored even or more than 70 points in that stretch. Meanwhile, they held 3 teams under 56, and there was one other team that hit right at the 60-point mark. UCLA, like I said, they'll probably crack 70, but they're not. I don't see them covering 13.5 points. We talked about Eastern Washington already. Fresno State shouldn't be favored by that many points over anybody. I don't care if you're playing IUPUI. I probably still wouldn't take them getting 13.5 points. Detroit over Orlando, we talked about. I'm going to take Florida on the road. This line was a whole lot better last night when it was minus 130 as opposed to minus 180. Apparently, people saw that and said, oh, look, Vegas is playing, and they're playing like crap. Let's bet against them. And that drove the lineup. Sergei Bobrovsky expected to start for the Panthers. He missed the game the other night with an illness. He's projected to start tonight against Laurent Brossoit. I'm going to go with the Caps on the Blue Jackets over 6.5. These teams like to score goals when they face each other for some reason. Eunice Korpisalo expected to start for Columbus. They're playing the second game of back-to-back. They beat Ottawa yesterday. I'm going to take Dallas over Montreal because why not? It's Montreal.
Right.
And, I get they played better under Martin St. Louis, but Dallas needs this win to stay in contention in the playoffs. And finally, we've got who'd we put at the end? That's right. San Jose and the Kings. I look to stay under 5.5. This has 3-2 written all over it. On the bright side for Ryan, Thomas Hertel is nearing an 8-year contract extension that will keep him in San Jose for the foreseeable future, which is good for them. They need to have some stability. The Kings, they like to play good defense. They're not a big offensive team. I look for that one to fall short of the number.
Well, there you go. So there's that, which is a good thing. So any more questions before we get out of here on a Thursday? A lot of people watching basketball at this point in time.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking.
So I guess without any further ado, guys, come on back tomorrow. We'll talk about what happened on day 1 of the madness, and we'll talk about what's going to happen on day 2. So there's plenty of good stuff coming up and down. Be sure to stay tuned for Scott and Scott over on the Winners and Whiners.
MWN2.
Right on the Max Wagers Network too. Jump over there and check them out. Then Lenny, Tim, and Nick come around at 5 o'clock. Lenny dropped by earlier today and had to run some errands, so he couldn't join us, but he could definitely just say, give us a shout out. So by all means, join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock, right here for what else? Where else would you want to be? You want to be here to talking about just parlays. with the man, the legend, Chris King. Okay.
And don't forget, Von Miller signed a 6-year contract with the Buffalo Bills
That's
yesterday
right.
at free agency. So a big acquisition there. Be interesting to see how things pan out as free agency rolls on in the NFL. We'll talk more about that next week.
Absolutely. All right, gang. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock, right here on the Max Wagers Network.